Only in Japan.
Game centers or arcades are really exciting places, especially for me. I grew up with them back in the 1980s. Japan invented them, and the Japanese companies, they were the industry leaders. And believe it or not, the game centers are still big today.
Akihabara is a hub for Japanese subculture, meaning it's a place loaded with game centers. Game makers like Sega and Taito have game centers here. The first floor is usually filled with crane games or UFO catchers, which we featured in a previous episode. Many also have Purikura photo sticker booths. But it's the games that attract me, and we're going to a special game center loaded with vintage arcade games.
I grew up with arcades back in the 1980s, but by the middle of the decade, they sort of died out. But here in Japan, they still exist.
Well, the kids in the 80s who actually enjoyed these games, the game centers, they still kept coming. They still are here.
Well, we in the United States just stopped once the game consoles came.
But for us, this was not just a place where you can play games. This was something very special. So with a little more money, people are still coming here. Same kids, still coming here.
So that means the average age of a gamer, when they were teenagers in the 1980s, that means they're like
30s, 40s,
50s, pushing their 50s, which is why retro game centers in Tokyo are a thing. This here behind us is Mikado. They have some pretty interesting games that I've heard.
Oh my goodness, you will be surprised.
Yeah, but you said one other person was going to be joining us.
Ah, Mickey.
Yeah, Mickey.
We needed someone who wasn't born during the arcade boom of the 1980s, and well, here she is. From the mobile gaming generation, she's no idea what she's getting into today, but she sure knows how to make an entrance. This is Miki Igarashi, and she's known as the Science Girl for her love of, well, science. Today, she'll get to try a vintage arcade game from before she was born. It really is like going back into time. Mikado is stocked with vintage arcade games like Daytona USA and Space Harrier. It's a mix of games from many generations. Back then, they really made the games to last. Metal sticks, buttons that you could pound, metal steering wheels, and solid game bodies. Let's play a few of these vintage arcade games. Shingo goes first, picking this car racer game made by Sega. It's Outrun, where you get to drive a Ferrari Testarossa Spider through what seems like California, USA.
Get ready.
Pole Position in 1982 was the earliest racing game I can remember playing with a steering wheel. So when Outrun came out with a gear shift, realistic controls, and car movements, it was a dream come true. Kids lining up to play, or should I say drive.
Well, this is one of the first games that I actually played on an arcade. It's got some nice girls, nice looking girls. It's got the full Californian American look. And this is all something that you kind of dream about United States. once you're gonna get old, you probably want to do exactly the same thing. Well, you don't want to crash that car, but okay. But this is the full American experience. Quite a long time ago, but yeah. And I still suck at it. I don't know why. 3 coins already? It says 1986. My God, it's been that long. Huh.
This game came a decade after Outrun. Tokyo Wars puts you inside of a tank as war rages in either central Tokyo or the Bayside area. Players had a lot more control with pedals. The screens got bigger too to compete with the game consoles. The experience needed to be more interactive than what you could play at home, each game lasting about 15 minutes. Speaking of game consoles, they've become retro too, and Super Potato in Akihabara has become headquarters to buy old game systems. But if you go to the top floor, they have an arcade with some retro games too. On the lower floors, you'll find old Nintendo games and equipment. Remember this thing? Japan had a lot of game consoles never seen in the West. But some are well known, like this one. Just walking around the store brings back memories from anyone who grew up between 1980 and 2000. Back in Mikado, I found an old arcade game I used to play in 1983, made by Atari.
So back in the early 1980s, Star Wars was the biggest movie, like it still is these days, and back then you would play all the arcade games standing up. This was the first game where you could sit down and enter a new world and actually destroy the Death Star yourself.
Really? I don't know. It's my first time to see that game.
Wait, when were you born again?
I was born in...
Never mind.
Okay.
Time to destroy the Death Star.
This game is simply called Star Wars and uses 3D color vector graphics. A game used to be 25 cents, but these days it's 200 yen and kind of worth it. Try finding this somewhere else. Star Wars incorporated the music from the movie, as well as real voices of Luke and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah! Just destroy the Death Star!
So they really knew how to make games back then. This one is made out of really good wood. The controls made out of metal, very solid. And the gameplay today is still really awesome. I mean, even, it was 1983, so they made this game, and it's still amazingly exciting to me. And the best part is when you hear Obi-Wan Kenobi tell you to use the Force, and you're inside getting ready to shoot the Death Star, you really feel the passion of the movie come alive into this game, and that's what makes this, like, so special.
Yeah, so this brings back your memories?
Oh yeah. This brings back memories when I was 10 years old. That's really cool that this thing actually exists, this game actually exists here in Tokyo.
Wow.
This is really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
30 years later, the Star Wars Battle Pod from Bandai Namco Games came out, and yeah, it's quite a step up from my childhood. It's Mickey's turn, and she's hankering to fly a helicopter. It felt like you were entering a real helicopter. A joystick like a cyclic and another handle like a collective and throttle, just like helicopter controls. For 100 yen, you could fly a multi-million-dollar helicopter, 1980s style.
Ready, go! Go! Okay, fight!
The helicopter stays in the center while the screen around you changes. The game moves to simulate a real helicopter battle.
Yeah, damn.
Mickey seems a little too chipper after falling 400 meters to the sea below, but we'll let it slide.
今のゲームはすごくリアルな感じがするんだけど、もうその「スター・ウォーズ」のゲームはすごくこうビットもちっちゃいからなんか懐かしく感じました。
ピクセル見えるでしょ。
ピクセルが見えてすごい懐かしい感じがしたんですよね。そうでもその世界観がしっかりできてるのがすごいびっくりしました。
There's still a lot of game centers in Japan, but this retro arcade will always have a home as long as there are people still alive to play them. Visiting a game center is a must in Japan, and if you grew up during the arcade boom, or you're just a fan of video game history, savor those 8-bit graphics and nostalgia, and bring a pocket full of quarters, or in this case, 100 yen coins. Next time, the Only in Japan series continues as we travel Japan in search of food, culture, and adventure. If you liked it, hit that subscribe button and check out another one of our shows. Don't miss my second live streaming channel, Only in Japan Go. And check out location photos on Instagram. Mata ne.